took me 3 months to get my first deal. The last 4 months of the year of 2021, I made more in those 4 months than I did full-time at the church in a whole year.
More in 4 months.
Kind of on a hamster wheel. And I knew that in my life, I didn't really want to live on a hamster wheel. I really wanted passive income. I think all business owners and entrepreneurs need to figure this out first. What kind of lifestyle do I want? I don't want to ever be so good at my job that I don't need Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
From worship leader to landowner is what. Welcome to the Faith Hustle Podcast, where we help young Christians learn how to build their business and careers God's way. I'm your host, Maquenda. I've been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years, and I've had the privilege and the honor of being mentored by some of the greatest entrepreneurs and business leaders that were not just successful in their business ventures, but they also had high integrity and they were fully devoted to Jesus, to the Lord, and to their families, and it made a mark on me. And this show is designed to be a platform to bring on voices in the body of Christ that are not just successful, but they've succeeded God's way. We teach from 5 pillars here at the Faith Hustle. We teach on being spirit-led, having humility, having generosity, having integrity, and having a spirit of stewardship. And that's what we're all about here. And if that's something that interests you, if that's something you're also pursuing as well, we invite you to tap in with us and subscribe to the podcast, whatever audio platform you listen to, or to the YouTube channel. We love to go on this journey together as we grow in our faith hustle. And on today's episode, I have my good friend, good brother, Jerry Burnett.
It's good to be here, man. Good to be here.
Great to be. Yeah. It's great for you to be here, man.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm excited to get into it. A little bit of context: me and Jerry go to the same church in Keller, Texas, and Milestone, and we're both on a worship team. I play drums, and you sing, play guitar. You probably play a bunch of other instruments. I know we were talking a little bit.
It's fine, dude.
Yeah, just
all musicians do.
No, not all. Yeah. Not all. We're not all as gifted, but we were in the green room, and sometimes you feel like you can know somebody, and then you talk to them like, oh my goodness, you do a lot of stuff. And his story is phenomenal. He is a worship leader, worship pastor turned real estate developer, literally, like land developer.
Right.
And I was like, that's an interesting switch. You don't really see that jump a lot. And so I was like, I got to have you on. I got to have you on, man. So welcome.
It's good to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Well,
and then first of all, though, 10 years as an entrepreneur, that's a big deal.
Close to 10.
That's a big deal.
Marketing, you can say close to 10. But no, I mean, I am
You're
getting
not
old.
Homeless?
I am getting old. Oh, praise the Lamb.
I know.
There was a time I was close.
Yeah.
I lived out of a closet. This is a true story.
Bro, and I love your pillars. Those are great.
Thank you. Thank you.
It makes me feel honored to be here.
Come on. And I genuinely, one of the, and this is a tip for anyone else that wants to do a podcast, not that I've mastered it, but one of the things that I was always taught from people who've been doing podcasting for a long time, they always say, make episodes that you would want to watch.
Right.
And bring people in that you admire.
There you go.
And so that's
right.
why you're here, man.
Well, I'll take that.
Absolutely.
I'll take it.
Absolutely. So I want to get into, because I know your story is extensive. We're going to go into different parts of it as we kind of dive into this. But one, obviously, love a little bit of background, just a very short bit of it. Of course, like married, kids, love to hear all that. Right. But yeah, just a little bit of background of your story, and then kind of what you do now, and then we'll kind of jump into all the things of all that good stuff. But yeah, go for it.
Well, as an adult, once I got out of college, I taught high school, and I taught media. I taught this stuff right here.
Way.
Yeah, I did.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then God called me into ministry, and it was a bivocational, which just means you're poor and working hard. That's all it means. So I was bivocational. I was teaching and doing music and leading worship at churches and stuff, and like trying to help their teams grow. And then eventually I did that for about 11 years, and then eventually God called me full-time on staff at a church, and I was there, served there for about 18 years.
18 years, wow.
18 years full-time, and I was the pastor of the weekend experience. I was the worship pastor, and just basically my job was leading leaders.
Got it.
You know, building teams, leading leaders. But, you know, if somebody sitting out in the seats would have said, yeah, that's the music guy. So I was the music guy. But, you know, did a lot of video, did a lot of the creative stuff. And then, I'd say, you know, 18 years into it, I like to ride my motorcycle, and I ride out on the country roads. And what I do is I don't listen to any music. I just listen to the engine, and I pray. And while I was praying, it was October of 2020, I felt like God said, your time is done, March 2021.
Wow.
And I was like, let's do it. Let's go. Because, you know, I know that when God says something, I'm going to do it. I don't care. I'm going to do it. If he says it, I'm going to go, because that's the plan, you know, and he's going to make it happen.
Well, I don't want to look past that, because that'd be one thing if, like, you tried a hobby for a year or a few months, and you're like, I'm not really feeling it. I'll switch to something else.
Right.
But doing something for 18 years, like you said, I've only been doing this for close to 10. Mm-hmm. To make a hard switch of like, you're done.
Right.
Because so many people can put an identity in what they do, right? It's very easy. Like,
we're going to talk about that.
This is who I am, right?
Right.
But like, so you settled in your heart, this is whatever God wants me to do, whatever it is.
100%.
Wow.
Because before that, I would say before I started doing that, saying I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do, my life was like just a room with all the doors, and I would open them, and it's just dark, and there's nothing inside, and I'm in control, and I'm just trying to figure out what to do the whole time, and I can't figure out what to do, and I'm just stuck. But when I surrendered myself to Jesus Christ 100% and said, you want me to do that? Let's go. I'm doing it right now. That's when my life became like a hallway with the doors just flinging open.
Wow.
You know, and when those doors are fling open, you got to walk through them, because you got to trust that God's going to take care of you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then what you have to do is you have to do your part. There's part of this as being a human. You actually have to put some work to it and learn it and grow. And you can't just go through that door and sit around and wait for him to do it for you.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Wow.
March 2021. And so in October, I mean, I literally went to my pastor and I told him, I said, hey,
this is what God said.
Yeah, and there's a lot of conversations like this before this one, but I'm cutting those out because I'm 53. I got a lot of them, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So I went to my pastor and I said, hey, March 2021.
This is happening.
God, this is happening. And he said, did you know that God just told me April 2021, my time is done?
Whoa.
So we were like, hey, we had a good ride. You know, God is calling the next generation up to lead this church.
Wow.
And so we both left about the same time.
Wow.
And that church is just exploding right now. It was such a great transition. Transition.
We need more stories of great transitions, because a lot of times it's like, someone left, but not in a good way, or just, you know, they were forced out, you know, they were lovingly pushed out, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so,
well, that church was growing on the personality of the leader. That was it, right?
Yeah.
And so if you pull them out,
that's all it's got,
Right.
But he builds the church. But anyways, this is not a church podcast, but that's so good. So, okay, so you transition. Did you have a sense of what that night? So he told you. Like verbatim, he said.
Well, now listen. He didn't say 10 years down the road, this is what it's going to look like. He said, here's the first step.
Okay.
And that's how it works, you know. And I think a lot of times we are impatient and we want to know where this is going. And we can't be that way. When God says to do something, you just got to take that first step and do that first step with integrity. Do that first step as hard as you can. On that first step, study, pray, grow, and then take the next step as he opens that next step, right? So I didn't know what that was going to look like. I just knew that he said, hey, I loved rehab shows, like developers and investors buying stuff and rehabbing it. I loved that. And so really felt like he was saying, you need to go into real estate and be an investor. And I thought that meant rehabbing houses,
Gotcha.
I didn't really know. I did rehab a house along the way, and I'm like, that was not for me.
It's not quite like, what was that show with Ty?
Right. Yeah.
In 7 days.
Yeah.
Bus driver, move
Exactly.
that butt.
Yeah. And that's awesome. But that's just so much risk and so many sleepless nights. And that was not the lifestyle for me. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But so what I did is I started with wholesaling, because in real estate, you really have to learn how to find a deal. You really have to learn how to negotiate it, how to underwrite it, how to go to a title company and say, I got this, can you help me?
Right.
And change the deed to somebody else. And you know what I mean? So how to find a buyer, blah, blah, blah. And wholesaling is a really good way to start. And then as I learned that, I started to learn creative finance, which really is ninja, and it helped me catapult the business to the next step. But all of these are God opening the doors. This was not me sitting there going, in my control, what can I do?
Right.
It was literally God putting people in front of me saying, hey, what about this? What about that?
Right.
And that door opening. And so I'm walking through, learning and figuring it out.
Wow.
And so then after I'm doing all this, I realized that I was kind of on a hamster wheel, and I knew that in my life, I didn't really want to live on a hamster wheel. It's always finding that next deal. Hustle.
Yeah.
You get paid, find that next deal. Tomorrow you got to do it again.
Right, yeah.
And so I realized I really wanted passive income. I wanted to figure out how to do passive income.
Yeah.
And what I realized at that point is that I really needed to figure out, and I think all business owners and entrepreneurs need to figure this out first. What kind of lifestyle do I want?
Right. Start with the end in mind.
Right. And then work backwards. Well, I didn't know that. So once I had done all those things, I was like, okay, I need to start backwards. What do I want? And then I kind of listed everything I wanted. And I believe that was straight from the Holy Spirit saying, Jerry, come on.
Right.
Think about this. And so then I worked backwards. And with that, I found land. And so in land, there's the active side of it where you're making money all the time, and then there's the passive side, which is generational wealth.
Can you break that down? Because I think there might be some people who are like, you didn't think this was possible, and I'm interested to know. Okay, so you have the passive side and you have the more active. So explain the difference.
So the active side is you actually go out and you find somebody who wants to sell their land, and that's a whole. We could talk for an hour about how to find that. Okay, but whatever. You find somebody who wants to sell their land. You negotiate a price. You take it to the title company, you find a buyer, you sell it all within 30, 45 days.
Got it.
And in land, it takes a little bit longer. On houses, it's really, really quick.
Right,
but say land is more like maybe 90 days, okay?
Got it.
So you have those, maybe 4 or 5 of those a month, and that's your active income, right? So you're always getting income because you're always having closings. And but then that is also, that's a hamster wheel. Right.
So the money you're making is from selling the land that you just bought?
Yeah, you buy it at 30 to 50 cents on the dollar, and you turn around and sell it for retail.
How long does it usually take for it to accumulate enough,
The income?
Yeah.
I mean,
or for you to turn it around to make some type of profit on it.
So we are averaging about 55 days from when they ink the document to when we get a wire from the title company. About 55 days. So that means we have found a seller, and then we got it inked. We take that contract, we take it to title, and then we start trying to find a buyer. You find a buyer. Title has to do their title search to make sure all that stuff.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I'm here thinking you got to sit on it for years.
Well, I wouldn't want to. I'm not trying to hate on agents, but if you put it with an agent, you might sit on it for a year or more.
Before you get a seller that would want to.
But we got the tricks. We got the hacks. We know how to sell it a lot quicker. Yeah. So we can find a buyer a lot faster.
Gotcha.
And so, if you get 4 or 5 of those a month, you're getting 4 or 5 closings the next month. And so it just starts to all add up.
But that's the hamster wheel way, right?
Yeah. And so the idea is, you got to be in the weeds to figure out how to do it. And then you start to step back and train other people, hire other people to do it. And then you step back, and that can kind of just run all on its own as you start to go off and do the generational wealth side.
And so what's that side?
So that side is more like you find bigger pieces of land, okay, and you subdivide them. All right.
So give me an example, like how many acres are we talking like?
Usually 40 is a good start.
Okay.
So anything over 40 to about 1,000 is pretty normal.
Okay.
And so what you do is if you think about it and you buy a 100-acre plot and it's quite a bit of money, but if you were to subdivide it, so you take a surveyor out there and you turn it into 10-acre plats, 5-acre plats, 2-acre plats. Now all of a sudden you have added value. So the whole idea is to add value. And
so in the same way of like you add an extra bathroom or an extra bedroom to a house, or
exactly, or you rehab a house. When you rehab a house, you just added value.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that is, and that I mean, you're not actually going out there putting lines in the grass. It's like you're just saying this will be a section here. This will be a section here.
So you get a surveyor typically.
Got it.
So there's minor and major subdivides. A minor subdivide is typically you just run a surveyor out there and he plats it all out for you. Here's 10 new plats. And so now you might have bought 100 acres for, I don't know, let's call it $100,000.
Yeah.
But you could sell each of those 10-acre plats for maybe $20,000 a piece.
Yeah.
So now you just made $200,000, right? Because you added value by paying for a surveyor.
Yeah.
Now, a major subdivide would be more like, oh, I got to put some roads up in here. I've got to run electricity. I might have to put
You're actually doing a little bit more developing.
Yeah. So that's a major and a minor subdivide. And then and so what we like to do is we like to structure it where it's like we sell maybe the back part, but keep the front part, right?
Got it.
So you keep the front part and you could like throw some self-storage on it, RV and boat storage on it.
Yeah.
And that's your passive income, right?
Got it.
Yeah. And then in the developments, we will go in, like we're doing a development right now in Arlington. It's you can throw a rock and hit the stadium. So it's right by Cowboy Stadium.
We were talking about that,
Yeah. And so that's just an acre and a half, but we're putting like tiny homes in there and some
Those are going crazy.
Airstreams, yeah. I know.
I can't do tiny homes. No.
But you know,
but I get it. People love it. I came from tiny, so I'm trying to get bigger.
But I mean, I'm saying this, and I'm not trying to like sound like I'm doing it all because I'm not. I mean, we're a piece of it, you know.
Yeah.
There's times where you like that development deal in Arlington. We just said, hey, we'll sell it to you, but we want 15% general partnership ownership, and we want this much money for limited partnership ownership. Because we just structured the deal where we could stay in it. So on all those development deals, we pretty much just do the entitlements part where you're just getting the jurisdiction like, does it need to be rezoned? Is the jurisdiction okay with you putting tiny homes here? So
you're doing all the work that they probably don't want to do.
They don't want to do that,
They don't
man.
want to mess with that, go to the city hall or whatever you got to do.
They want to pull a permit and build a house.
Got it. So you're handling all that, and for that, you keep 15% and all the other things.
That's right. And so what it's all about...
That's genius.
All it's about is adding value. That's it. So if I went to the MLS and bought something full price, there's no value to add, right? Possibly, unless I could subdivide it or something. So the whole idea of it is what value can we bring to it to 2, 3, 4, 5x our money?
Wow.
Yeah.
From worship leader to landowner is what. If you had to guess how, you don't have to say like the estimate amount, but how much land or developments, like, because you said that was March of 2021.
Yeah.
That you stepped away from that season to go into this one. How much have you guys acquired? Because you have partners and.
I have one partner.
Gotcha.
Yeah, one partner. And we kind of met in a mentorship we were in together, which everybody needs to get in mentorships. You just need to learn. You need to be watching podcasts. You need to be reading. You need to be in mentorships. But we were kind of helping each other with each other's deals. And then one day we were like, man, let's just partner up. So I have one partner. And we started partnering probably at the end of the wholesaling where we were doing creative finance.
Yeah.
But most of the time on those creative finance deals, we were just we were being the ninjas to put the deal together, and then we would kind of assign it to somebody and sell it off. We did buy one house we took over somebody's mortgage. Okay, this is how ninja this was. We took over their mortgage. Their mortgage was at 2.5% interest rate. And this was in a time when all the interest rates were up at 7, right? Mm-hmm. So we literally just came in. They were about to get foreclosed on. We took over their mortgage. And then we turned around and we had a lot of equity in the home because the home was worth more than what their mortgage balance was, right? And so we turned around and we created a new note for the equity of the home, and we had their mortgage, and we wrapped those all together, and we sold it to somebody else at 9%.
Well, you sold the house or the note?
The note, yeah, the mortgage and the note. That's called a wrap.
A wrap.
Yeah.
See, this is why they don't teach none of this in school. I was learning geometry that I don't use anymore. Jason, do you know anything? Did you know anything about this?
Bro, not a thing. My feelings are hurt.
But I'm going to tell you, man, I'm going to tell you, I give all the glory to Jesus. That's it. Because the only thing I can say I ever did was that I got up every morning and I said, God, this is your business.
Come on.
I'm giving this business to you.
Now we talking.
Yes. And I pray for my leads, and I pray for my partner, and I pray for the trajectory of the business. And so what happens is I keep walking through that hallway and those doors keep opening. And when I get to the other side of the door, there's someone on the other side saying, hey, did you know about this or whatever? Like it's just like, it's like my life has an algorithm in it because I'm in tune with the Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm always just getting people in front of me.
Which is so, I want to go into that because outside of all these gems you're dropping, when I try to explain to people how I built my business, because sometimes we want to sound smarter than we are.
Right.
So we're like, oh yeah, I did this, and I put this together and this, and had this lead magnet, this funnel, and we had all this different stuff, which is like, that's great, awesome. That's not my story. My story is, I was just a church kid that did video announcements and ended up. People wanted to hire me, and I started doing gigs here, and there. Then I got an internship at an agency. Then I went off on my own, knew nothing. The only thing I knew how to do was just to put more work in and just pray.
Yeah, and
that's
how anybody needs to do, man.
But we underestimate. we don't value it because it's not valued in the business community, and so like we can feel less. It's like, no, you need a strategy. You need this. You need that. I literally just you'll love this. I just watched a clip on Instagram. It was actually today. It was Chris Hodges, and if you're not familiar with him, he has a very large church in the Alabama area, Church of the Highlands. They also have like a church planning organization, ARC. I think they've planned over 1,000 churches. His church in Alabama. I don't know how many. It's a lot of campuses, a lot of people. And he said, for how big we are, he said people would be shocked. He said, I was never a numbers guy. He said, I've never made a numeric goal. He always made health goals. Health goals of the organization, health goals of the leaders. And he said he was less of a strategist. He was more of an opportunist. He was like, I wanted us to be as healthy as we could, spiritually, financially, all those leadership-wise, so that when opportunities came, we were ready for them, rather than going in and saying, oh, we're going to do this and do that. Just be healthy. Yeah. And I was like, man, that's it. It's an interesting way to live. And but that's your story of like, it's because what I hear you saying is like, it's less about you of like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. It's like, I'm just gonna say yes to God and follow that door, and then when another door opens, I'm just gonna keep going and just ask him what he wants me to do.
Period. And I don't want to sound like I don't like systems. We have systems. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But I don't want to ever be so good at my job that I don't need Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Right?
My God.
Yeah. It's so true.
Because it can happen very easily.
Yeah, and then you're in control.
Yeah. Because and I was literally just reading 1 Peter 5 today of, he resists the proud. Yeah. He exalts the humble. I would rather humble myself before he has to.
Yeah. Because that's going to hurt.
That's a heavy hand. That's a heavy hand.
Yeah.
And it's like, because we weren't meant to carry that. And it's like, that is so good. Yeah. And that's the heart I can see that heart posture that you have. So tell me about that pivot. Because, again, you have a family, right? You got wife. How many kids?
2.
2 kids?
2 girls, yeah.
2 girls. How long you been married?
We have been married. We just celebrated 30 years of marriage.
Come on.
We dated for 5. We've been together a minute.
Wow. Come on. 35 years together.
35 years together, yeah.
So, obviously, a pivot like that, that's
huge.
That's a huge pivot within the family dynamic, financially.
Yep.
Just the, like...
I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Don't do it.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no,
God is good, dude.
No.
Here's the thing. I'm interrupting you. We had a nest egg, okay? And I knew I had a good 10, 12 months. If I couldn't figure it out in 10 to 12 months,
Right.
And also, I tithe. I pray.
Come on now.
I knew, and God told me to do it. So, I wasn't scared. I knew that it was a risk, but... I knew who was in control, and so I wasn't scared.
Come on,
but
you were wise though. It wasn't just flipping of like, I got nothing.
Right, I would never have done that.
You were a good steward.
Yeah,
but even because you started in March, right? Like you left in March. Mm-hmm. That means you had been a good steward up until that time.
Right.
So it wasn't like you were just flippantly like, oh, I'm just, thus saith the Lord. God told, and those things happen, but like. There is something to be said of being prepared.
So I will say this, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm trying to brag on the process. It took me 3 months to get my first deal. So we had zip for 3 months. Mm-hmm. And then, though, I had, 3 or 4 months left of the year. Let's call it, I don't remember how many months. But in the last 4 months of the year of 2021, I made more in those 4 months than I did full-time at the church in a whole year.
You made more in 4 months.
Yeah, it's like it just takes a minute to get a deal and figure out how it happens. You start to get close. You get a little closer. You get a little close. Oh, I can do this. And then you start finally getting the deal. And then it just started to just unravel, and it was great.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I took all of December off and bought a Harley.
Come on.
I wouldn't advise that either.
Hey, listen. Hey, if you got it, you got it.
Well,
that's a huge transition from... Like you said, worship pastor pay and all that and just that. But imagine if you never took that step.
I know.
But again, I love for you to talk me through that because again, like when I started my business, like when people ask me for business advice, it's always really tough for me because I'm like, you have to understand, I was 20 years old. Mm-hmm. I'm still single, but I had no kids. No wife at home, no mortgage. I literally slept couch to couch to make it work. And my expenses were really low. And I had a car that was paid off and the gas was really cheap, especially back then. It was very cheap. And so I could live off of $1,000 a month, if not, or skip meals if you got to, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. Or, thankfully church, I used to stick around towards the end of like young adult services because he always had extra pizza. Bring it back home.
Take a box home, have some in the morning.
And then I was looking for the single guys like, hey, you just make it work. Yeah. And that's how I survived. But I wouldn't recommend how I did it because again, my circumstance is different than others. So
yeah, totally.
Again, maybe walk me through. And not even just okay, hey family, we're doing this together. Trust me, this is what God's telling us. But even some of the, and this is what I'm trying to stop or we're trying to speak to in this podcast is the shame in the church of when someone goes into business. Because sometimes it can just be this oh, so you left ministry for.
That's a big crock of lies, dude. Here's the thing. I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, that's what I want to ask.
When you receive Christ into your heart, you are in ministry.
Come on.
Period. So some people get paid for it, and some people work at churches. But we're all in ministry.
Wow.
And so, if I'm chasing after Jesus, I am in ministry in real estate.
Regardless.
I talk about Jesus all the time.
Yes.
Ask my partner.
I love it.
She gets sick of hearing about it, probably. I don't know. But I get to talk to sellers who are in bad situations, and I get to talk to them about Jesus.
Wow.
I do just as much ministry. And everybody, wherever you work, in schools, where you attend, at the gym, we all are in ministry.
Wow.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My dad was the one, he said, I mean, my dad's a very wise man. If you've been listening to this podcast, you've heard me probably quote him at least once a episode. But because I was going back and forth when I started my business, I felt guilty. Mm-hmm. I genuinely did. I was like, man, I feel like I'm just helping people make money, making more money. Rich people help, just them getting another house or whatever, for the work that we were doing. And he told me, he's like, one, you are in the ministry, like you don't need a title for it. Mm-hmm. And two, he was like, stop waiting for your destiny to start. He was like, you're just sitting around just waiting you're in it now.
That's good.
Every interaction, every person, you are in it.
Yes.
Like life doesn't start at some point. You're in it. And so,
and don't you believe that God is our biggest cheerleader? No matter what path we choose, He's going to open up doors for ministry as long as we're chasing after Him. Period.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because I think in so many ways I think we can just have this romance idea of what, serving God looks like. Mm-hmm. And what we think God values. Because for me, it was always the big.
Right.
And I think in some of it, it's a good heart. That's how God wired me. Mm-hmm. But I think in a lot of times it's like, is the big for me or is it for Him? Is it more like, oh, look at me, I'm on this stage, I'm preaching to X amount of people, or I'm in this country and we're doing this because I grew up doing missions? Or is it like, who's the focus on? Mm-hmm. Like who's like, and it's wild how you can, because I have subcontractors, I've been praying years, witnessing to them for years to get saved. Shared my testimony. I intercede for them weekly to come to the Lord. If I was in business just for that and they get saved, which I know they will, that'd be worth it.
Yeah.
But like, for sure, we don't see that value because we don't see value in the seller getting reached. Mm-hmm. We don't see that. But
nobody sees it.
Nobody sees it. But
right.
But he sees it. And then, but it's funny too, you get outside the walls of the church, you realize, oh man, sometimes we're weird.
We are. We are very weird.
Yeah, and then, we just there's so much culture that only we understand, that nobody else does. And I remember John Maxwell used to say this because, he was a pastor and went into the business world. He was like, man, the harvest field is way bigger out here. Mm-hmm. It's like he's reaching more people for Christ in the business world than he ever was. Because the funny thing is, they all want to be successful. They all subscribe to these, new agey, let's just call it what it is, kind of manifesting and this and that. And, they all, the mentality stuff of success. And it's like, all that's actually just found in Christ, and so much more when you get Him. Mm-hmm. But it's like, so there's so many conversations I've had with people. They're like, man, you're so wise. Where'd you get that from? I was like, oh, Proverbs.
And the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I love that. That's good. I love that.
Good words, man.
And so I want to get into. I'm actually really curious to hear your answer to this, and hearing all of what we've been talking about. I know. How would you then define success? Because, and I want to kind of give you a little alley-oop with this. We were talking on the phone earlier, and you mentioned a really good system you have of be, do, have. I'd love for you to talk on that.
Sure.
Of what that means to you.
Yeah. I appreciate the layup. That's good. Yeah. So I believe that, and this is something that I say to my kids all the time. It's actually, I have got to tattoo it on me. But it's the whole idea of be, do, have. And so many people in life, they start at do. What I do defines me and makes me somebody, right? And and they get boxed up into like whatever. I am a teacher, and so I act this way, or I am this way, or whatever.
Right.
And then a lot of times, what they do allows them to have things, and then sometimes they just think, well, once I do these things and have these things, once I have the house and the car or whatever, fill in the blank with whatever it is you want to have, then I have arrived and I am defined by this. Right. That is the be. So they put do, have, and they put be at the end of that sentence, you know? And what I believe so strongly is that be has to be at the front of this sentence.
Right.
You have to be the best version of you that you can be. I'm never going to be you, McQuinda. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're really cool, dude. And I look up to you. I'm like, man, I wish I was cool, but I got to be me, and I got to be the best version of me that I can be. And that means that I've got to read the Bible. I've got to pray. I got to say, God, who do you want me to be? I've got to be spiritually healthy. I've got to be emotionally healthy. I've got to be relationally healthy and physically healthy. So you're the only one that can do that. You're the only one that can take care of yourself. You're the only one that can make those decisions of who you are. And so what happens is, when you are something really awesome, all of a sudden everything that you do has rocket fuel added to it because you are something so special, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not defined by what you do.
Right.
You're defined by who you are and whose you are. Let's make that clear,
Yeah.
right? So that adds rocket fuel to the do, and then the have is just a cherry on top.
Right.
Like all of a sudden you can have stuff, you know? But none of that really matters. Because what's most important is who you are.
Right.
Period.
How have you seen that operate in real estate development? Because I remember we were talking and you said something really fascinating. You're like, the same things that was part of my makeup of being in full-time ministry, that's what helped me. It actually set me up for this new path. I'm curious of that, of who you became and all those things you said. How has that helped you?
Well, I think it made me a very good leader, first of all, because I know who I am. And so, like, if somebody says no, they don't want to sell me their property, or if I lose a deal or this or that, I'm still the same person. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think it just makes you really, really strong and confident in who you are. Like, it really helped me today when I went to a board meeting in Gun Barrel City to like talk to the water council about stuff, and you know, I'm kind of going off track here. I'm sorry.
No, it sounds fascinating.
It was kind of fun, but I was like, hey, you know, set the expectations for me before I went. What do I need to do? Do I, whatever? What do I need to? Do I need to speak? Do I need to be ready? Like what? And they're like, no. You sent us the pictures. You know, we've talked to you through email on the phone. You're fine. Just come and be a part. And so when I got there, they said, okay, motion to start with Jerry Burnett for easement to whatever, blah, blah, blah. Motion to go, second motion, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Mr. Burnett. And they just sat back. You're up. You're up. And so I think just like knowing who I am, knowing whose I am, being comfortable in that, and not being boxed up by what I have or what I do, but just knowing who I am. It was so easy and it was fun to just get up there. I was just so comfortable in the moment. They put me on the spot and it was awesome.
Wow.
No big deal, you know.
And so it's impacted, like you said, if you get a deal, if you lose a deal, that it doesn't rock your world.
Not at all.
I can remember I would say the main thing that makes an entrepreneur is mental toughness. But that would be the world's definition.
Yeah.
I think a scriptural definition would be you are founded and rooted in your identity in Christ. Because it is wild how many no's you get. It is fascinating how many no's you get. And the amount of no's you get on the outside end, someone's like, oh man, you're so successful. But when they really see it, they're like, I don't know what sane person does this. It takes this many no's. It's crazy.
Yeah, they see the highlight reel.
Yeah.
They see the fact that whatever, you got a deal in Arlington or whatever, but they didn't see the 100 no's and that trailed along before that.
I've had to learn to not get too excited for deals because there's been so many times I'm like, they're like, yeah, we're gonna do it. You get the yes.
Yep. The verbal
yes. Or email, you're like, yes. And then you're like, all right, so when can we get started? You want to send over that contract? Just it's always like, just send it over whenever is best for you, and then we'll get started. It's like 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you're like, that excitement just goes away. Yep. But I mean, even that, how do you handle that?
Well, we have celebration points, okay? So when we get the contract signed, when it's inked, we call it dip cone. That's all we say. We just say dip cone because we want to say, hey, yay, we got something, this is exciting. And we don't want to treat it like it's not a good thing. We want to celebrate it. So we just, the whole family, you can get whatever you want, but we go to Dairy Queen. It's just
that's cool.
habit. Yeah.
I love that.
But then we don't really celebrate until we, it's paid.
Money's in escrow. It's wired. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how you involve your family with it too. Have you noticed even with your daughters who are watching you, have you noticed a difference or in them from that transition?
From being a pastor to... Yeah, for sure. For sure.
How would you say it's impacted them the most?
Well, man, I say for sure, but, they love me just the same, and they don't... I don't know. Maybe there hasn't been a change. Maybe they've been just exactly the same. My kids are amazing, dude. They love Jesus, and one of them. You know one of them. And I think they've grown closer to Jesus. I don't know that that's because I'm not in the ministry anymore, but maybe I'm gonna retract that answer and just say maybe they haven't changed.
And honestly, that's probably the best answer you can ask for. Because again, the reason why I asked that is, of course, entrepreneurship, part of the toll that it can take is on families. Mm-hmm. And that's why I was like, oh, man, you guys do a family thing together around certain wins. Mm-hmm. I was like, I took a mental note of that. Like, I'm going to do that with my kids. Like, hey, we're all going to just...
Definitely.
I'm going to bring you in on this. This is not just this something Dad does.
Right.
And, he brings home the bacon. We're going to do this together.
And, my girls do ask about deals because they ask, how did it go today? Did you get any, whatever. They ask and they're interested. And I think maybe the difference has been, there has been one difference, and that's just there's a little bit more freedom. Like, I have more freedom nowadays than I did as a pastor. I mean, as a pastor, it was just 24/7.
Right. Oh, yeah. It was never...
Yeah,
I'm a pastor's kid. It's never 9 to 5. Whoever said 9 to 5, oh yeah, this is a career. It's like, no, this is not a career.
And now, I'm pretty much available all the time, where I was not before at all.
Even to take we filmed this on Wednesdays.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm sure if you were, did y'all do Wednesday night Bible studies or
it was just students. Yeah,
gotcha.
Students,
but there's something. There's always something going on, or you're prepping for
Always. And now I just feel like I'm more present. So maybe the change was me.
Wow.
And not them, But maybe I'm seeing a change in them because their daddy's around more, So,
wow.
Which is one of the things I wanted. One of the work backwards when I said, what do I want my business to look like? One of the work backwards things was I want more freedom.
Wow.
And so that's when flipping houses was out of there. I do not want to flip houses.
Because that's more time.
That is more risk, more time. Just, sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's the worst. If you're flipping houses, I applaud you.
Yeah.
I got nothing but respect.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. You got to be good at building stuff. I'm not a good builder at all. I'm handyman handicap, as they say.
There you go.
I before we end, I'd love for you to... I know you touched on it in the beginning, you just touched on it now. I actually would love for you to go more into that, because I do think a lot of entrepreneurs do not think with the end in mind, and I'll explain why. Mm-hmm. Again, in my experience, I've realized there are several ways to build a business, and it's really up to you of what you are wanting. Mm-hmm. So I know people who slave away, they work every day, and they don't bring on team members. They do everything themselves. Mm-hmm. It's like a mix of workaholic and control. They don't want anybody, it's going to take me too much time to train someone to do it. I can just do it myself. That type of mentality.
Right.
That works for a while, and until you just burn yourself out, but you don't know how to get out of that. And then there's more of like the leverage. You're leveraging your time, or you're leveraging systems, and obviously there's stuff in between. But part of it is based upon how you want to live your life. What are you trying to do? Somebody might do that and they love that. They love the work. They love doing all of it. If you're talking to an entrepreneur right now, we got a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs who are listening to this, or people who are young in their start. What did that look like what did your list look like? And how would you advise someone of like, all right, start with the end in mind before you even get that LLC? Think about this in your end. What did that look like for you?
Well, so for me, it was I wanted to own a business. I didn't want to have a high-paying job. You know what I'm saying? And so there is a difference. There's a difference, yeah, because when I did the wholesaling in the beginning and just didn't really think it through, I was, working really hard. And
You're a salesman.
Yeah, and I just had a high-paying job where I wanted to be an owner of a business. And so I had to kind of work backwards from that. And so what you have to do, though, is you have to get in the weeds. You have to do the job so that you know how to train someone how to do it. You can't just bring someone on and say, I want you to be the acquisition manager, and you don't even know what that means. You need to go out and do that first, right? And then what I started doing is kind of dissected what my superpowers are, where I am the best used in this company, and then what are the things I don't like doing, and that I'm not good at, and I want to find other people to do those, right? And so that is what I've been doing, is trying to figure out how to do this, find other people to do the things that I hate doing, and do the thing that I'm the best at, and try to own a company as opposed to have a high-paying job. I don't know if that answered your question, but...
No, well, so what led to that? Of like, you could do that, make a great living.
Right.
But what's the con of that you saw?
The con of that?
Yeah.
Of work? Oh, you have no time. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have no time. You're totally stressed out. You're doing everything. And like, to your point, it takes too much time to train somebody. I'll just do it myself. Well, I always work from if somebody can do it 70% as good as you, let them do it. Okay? And so you still have to lead leaders, right? You still have to be the boss. You still have to like check in and like, because we have a daily huddle and we talk through everything. What's going? How did you do on that? How did you do on this? It's not micromanaging. It's just leading. Right. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
no, it does. I mean, and again, I think part of it is like you have to take an honest assessment.
Yeah.
And to be fair, some people, they go in the industries, they go into businesses, like me, I didn't know. I didn't know what it was really going to take. I didn't know, I just gave myself a job. I remember when I first realized I just gave myself a high-paying... Well, actually, it wasn't even a high-paying job at that time. But I just gave myself a job, had a funeral I had to go back home for. And obviously went home, and I realized this business just stopped.
Yeah.
It just stopped.
That's huge.
Because
I left.
Like, deals stopped flowing. Nothing got done.
Yeah.
No editing projects got done. Nothing like no clients got billed.
Yeah.
Because I stopped, this business stopped.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is not what I want when I'm in my 30s and I got kids. I want to be able to we in Turks and Caicos.
Yeah.
And we chilling.
I'm taking 4 weeks off.
Exactly.
And the company's still just moving right along.
Still going. And obviously there's intentionality.
Yeah.
And there's I've learned there's sacrifice of I'm starting to slowly reap the benefits of that decision. But it looked like, for a long time, foolish of why are you building like this? All for the while, I have the end in mind.
That's it.
I know I could be making more money doing everything myself. But if I can build this way, the goal is at a certain point, I'm going to be making just
you're going to be making that without doing all the work.
Without doing all of it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's gold right there.
Yeah.
That is good.
And because it gives you that time to, do all the things that you want to be devoted for.
100%, dude. 100% stamp of approval on that.
Hey.
That's how. But the thing is you got to be in the weeds a little bit to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And then you can find ways to bring people on, and that might be interns. They come in intern just to learn it. You know. And maybe they don't work for that much, but they're learning the skill and they're doing work for you. And maybe they move on, but maybe
at one point,
maybe they eventually work into a job. You just never know.
Right. But yeah, you have that period in the beginning. I think everyone does. You have to pay your dues.
Right.
But then from there, having a long-term plan, and I think that's so wise. Jerry, there's so many things. We don't have enough time to go into all the different avenues I would want to go in. Last thing I want to ask you as we close out. You know, I talked about how you define success. I'd love for you to get into, again, for me, the most impressive thing out of all of this is, and what I'm trying to convey and what I'm trying to teach those who are younger, of like not just the stuff on paper that looks successful, but your faith walk and the fact you have a healthy family life, all those different things. If you could say one thing that's been the contributing factor to that, whether like you're working just at 9 to 5 and you're in a career, or you are an entrepreneur that's on the go, building, growing, and you got a family that just needs as much attention, what's been your secret sauce to that? Intentionality.
100% intentionality. Friday night date nights with the wife. I have Wednesday lunch dates with my daughter. Well, growing up, we had Saturday family days. They were not allowed to have plans outside. We all
That's
went
cool.
to and because you can want you and your wife, you and your husband to be as close, as possible, but until you actually do something about it.
And put it on the calendar.
Yeah, put it on the calendar. Honey, we are not making plans with anybody on Friday evenings. You and I are going out. And then what I do is like I tell her, I don't tell her exactly where we're going, but I'm like, I want you to wear whatever. Dress up.
Cool.
Dress up, wear a nice dress, whatever. Walking shoes, bring some walking shoes. I just don't tell her a lot more than that. But I think for me, success is defined by not the do or the have, but the be. I'm just telling you, that is success. Is when I pass away, what are people going to say about who I was? And did I make an impact in their life?
Right.
As long as I can pay my bills and make it by, that's fine.
Wow.
I'm not trying to success to me isn't being a millionaire. It's what did I affect people's life with who I was?
Right.
That's success to me.
Man, that's all you need right there.
I think so.
That's so good. Jerry, thank you. Thank you
absolutely,
so much
dude.
for
It's
being
been
on
awesome.
the show. This has been It's been a treat. I feel it's like a breath of fresh air. And obviously, we got so many gems. We might have some future land developers.
Bro, you were landing them too. It was awesome.
Hey, I might get into the land business
It
just
was
with
awesome.
you, man. I'm like, 55 days? Let's
Come
go.
on. Come on.
We appreciate you. Thank you for your wisdom.
You
and
bet.
definitely excited to have you back on the show at some point.
Yeah,
And so,
thank you.
Blessings to you and your family. And thank you. Thank you, man, for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Faith Hustle Podcast. We hope you got some great value out of it and that it's going to help you in your journey of learning how to build God's way. If you want to join this tribe, this community that's on that same pursuit, we want to invite you to subscribe to all the audio platforms that you might listen to and to this YouTube channel. We're going to be putting out a lot more content just like this to help you to build your business God's way. So until next time, we'll see you soon.